We will just get started then. Shayla Keaton, thank you for joining us today. My name is Kayla Sanders. I am the alumni manager for the college and also the Genesis Board liaison. Today's topic will be on SuccessRx will be developing self-confidence. And at first, we'll just have the Genesis Board members introduce themselves. Mo, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. My name is Mo Fredericks. I graduated in 2020, and I'm currently the pharmacy manager over at Mercy in Iowa City.
Christina?
Yeah, I'm Christina Bungart. I graduated in 2011, and I am currently a clinical pharmacist provider at a VA clinic in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Aaron?
I'm Aaron, class of 21, and I am one of the owners of Town Crest Pharmacy.
Emily?
Good evening, Emily Viverberg. I'm a 2009 graduate, currently working as an assistant professor at the University of Dubuque.
And last but not least, David.
Hey guys, my name is David Hotland. I'm from the class of 2013. I'm currently the RPD and clinical pharmacist in the emergency department at UW Health Swedish American Hospital in Rockford.
Okay, well, thank you. I am going to just hand it off. I think, Mo, are you going to lead this off?
Oh, lead us off.
Get this thing started?
Share my screen. Let's just go screen 2.
I'll keep an eye on the chat as well.
Sounds good. So for all the students on the call, and even actually everybody on the call, that if you guys can take your phones out, there's going to be a QR code on the screen if you want to scan it when it shows up, and we're just going to poll everybody in this group today. Just see who our audience is and what they think about the topic, and that will allow us to better gauge how we storytell, which is part of the conversation as well in developing confidence. So to get us started, the name of this presentation is Developing Confidence, How to Be Confident Yet Humble. So we're kind of going to discuss a little bit about how to develop confidence, but at the same time, how does that not get to our heads and let our ego get in front of us so that we don't compromise our successes? For this presentation, the leaders who are going to be presenting today are going to be Aaron McDonough, Christina, and myself. We do have the other Genesis board members on, so if they want to share their stories or some of their experiences, and even some of the audience members, please feel free to do so throughout. So this is the flow of our presentation. We're going to go through the circle of confidence that we came up with, just to develop confidence consistently and continuously that we found we've done throughout our careers. We're going to move into communication, connecting, and developing confidence through communicating. Then we're going to go into that learning and adapting and pivoting portion of learning from our mistakes, learning from our setbacks. And that's where we're going to go into staying humble and confident, because it kind of leads into that there really well. So to start off, there's a QR code on the screen. Go ahead, scan it, or you can go to the website and put that number in. Let's just get a poll of who all's on the call. P1 and a P2. Okay, that's good. Here's a little deeper question. How often have you experienced self-doubt or imposter syndrome during your academic or professional careers? Good. Doesn't seem like we have people that are stepping outside of their comfort zones every week, which is good. You want to get a little bit of consistency before you tread new waters. So this is where that comes in, where you try and chart new waters and you have those experiences where you feel like you either not in the right place at the right time, where you don't have the skill set to be in that position or applying for a position, whether you're a P1 or P2, whether it be a leadership position. And that's where these things come up, and that's what we're going to help you guys build today. How would you define confidence? Just go ahead and type it in. Just get a baseline of what everyone's thinking about. We got one more person typing. These are good. Not being afraid to face fears. So you're confident that you can do it. Understand that you will find a way to figure it out. That's excellent. Believing in your abilities, definitely. We're going to talk about self-belief today. Knowing you have the ability to perform the job you set out to do. So you say you're going to do something and you do it, knowing that you've built the ability and skill set to do it. Awareness of skills and belief kind of plays into that, and belief in your own knowledge. I think a comparison or two definitions I've heard is confidence is keeping promises to yourself, whereas your reputation is how you keep promises to other people. So it's very similar to this here, but kind of think about it that way as well, of putting all this together. You said you're going to do it, and it was upon you to perform well, and you ended up doing it regardless of the circumstances. And that there kind of builds your reputation as well. So your confidence kind of plays into your reputation on delivery for other people. So we're going to go through and provide our stories on the circle of confidence, how we built it throughout pharmacy school, how we're currently building it in our careers, so that you guys can get a sense of, if you're in that scenario, if you're in that situation, how would you handle it? So I'm going to hand it off to Aaron, and he's going to talk through the story.
Thanks, Mo. Yeah, before I jump into my story, recently I was asked to speak about being an entrepreneur and how I kind of define that. Defined it in three ways, and it's very similar to what we're talking about today with confidence and self-belief. One, I say foundational knowledge. You need to have your foundational background information to be able to believe in yourself or have that ability. Two, effective communication, which we'll talk about today. And three, the ability to pivot or change when it's necessary. We'll also talk about that later in the presentation. But my background story, as it relates to this, and this is something I'm still evolving in, but when I was a P4, I really was toying with the idea of doing a residency, toying with the idea of not doing a residency, fellowship, all sorts of different ideas. And I always thought I had like these cool ideas that could potentially be a business, could potentially be something that could really come to fruition, but didn't really act on it, obviously, until I decided one day I wasn't going to do a residency. And I decided I was going to jump into business ownership right after graduation. So after I finished taking out my last student loan, what I do, I went straight to the bank and took out another big old business loan. So I thought that was all cool. I was a business owner. I remember day one, July 1st, just graduated, just finished the NAPLEX, finished the law exam, sat down at my desk. I'm like, I'm a business owner. This is awesome. Got all these ideas. What am I doing? Where do I start? What the heck? I got these ideas, but just because I think I have all these cool ideas doesn't mean that everybody who I think would benefit from these cool ideas knows that I'm even thinking about this, or knows that it exists, or knows that it's an opportunity. So that's when I started realizing I needed to get the word out there. And that's when I had to put myself in really uncomfortable situations by really just reaching out to anybody and everybody who would be willing to listen to me and give me some time a day so I could talk about the foundational knowledge that I've learned as it relates to functional medicine, drug induced nutrient depletion, compounding, these ideas that I had in my head that I thought would be good business ideas, but I hadn't really elaborated that to anybody. So I started scheduling all these meetings with physicians, with chiropractors, with physical therapists, all sorts of different health specialties, saying, hey, we can do this, we can do that. Give me some time of your day so I can present some information about how you can then maybe refer patients to me into my new business, or how we can get the word out there so we can actually make this business come to fruition. And I remember the first clinic that I actually had scheduled was University of Iowa's OBGYN clinic. And I wanted to talk about women's health as it relates to bioidentical hormones. And so I watched, a couple lectures, so I was up to speed with everything. I wanted to make sure that my confidence was there to deliver and be able to effectively communicate what that looks like and what the call to action would be so that they could refer patients my way. And this was the first time I ever done that. And I thought I was super, and they just started bombarding me with questions that I couldn't answer. And I was like, oh my God, this is going terrible. I had no idea what to do. And I was so scared. I'm writing down all these questions like, oh, I remember in pharmacy school, they said, if I don't have the answer, don't make something up, but tell them I'm going to come back to them in 30 minutes or a day or two. So I'm writing down all these questions like, yeah, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. I'm like, I don't think I've answered a single question. I'm just saying I'm going to come back to you. And I finished that meeting and I felt like it was a complete failure. I'm like, well, that sucked. That didn't do anything for me. It just made me lose confidence in myself. But I took down all those notes as to what I needed to answer, what I needed to improve upon. And I kept on reaching out to all these different specialties and scheduling meetings and, going back to this OBGYN clinic. I eventually said, you know what, I'm not just going to email them the answers that I came up with. I'm going to ask them to do another session, another over lunch session for me to talk about what I've learned. And that was about a month or two later. Getting scheduling with those clinics can be kind of challenging sometimes. But a month or two go by and they said, yeah, let's do it. Let's meet. And we met and I answered all their questions. They're like, oh, this is really awesome. What can you do for us in this area? What can you do for us in this area? And I had the answers. I felt more confident and I just stuck with it. And even though that first one went terribly, the second one had a completely different vibe to it. And things were going well. And they ended up sending some business our way. I still remember I created these fax forms for them to send compounded prescriptions our way. And I created it probably in July when I first started. And the first one came through in like October. And I had one of our students say, hey, Aaron, what is this? And I'm like, what the heck is that? Oh, wait, that's a referral. And that one referral was such a build up my self-confidence. I felt so successful, even though I just got one referral and it was 3 months after the fact. But that was kind of like, oh, this is reward. This is recognition for I should keep going. And I just started, I kept on scheduling all these appointments and all these meetings with these clinicians and talking about different services that we can add and different things that they may benefit from. And I still do that to this day. It's gotten to the point now today that I'm hiring more students and technicians that are actually starting this process for me because I'm too overwhelmed with how many requests we're getting and how fast we want to expand. But there still don't 100% go smooth. And there's still times that I have to be able to pivot and have to be able to not crumble under pressure, but be able to recognize that I might not have all the answers for you right then or there. And this meeting might not go as according to my plan. but I cannot crumble under pressure. I really need to be able to stay confident, keep my head up, and be able to deal with any kind of adversity that might be thrown my way. And that has kind of led us to where I'm at today in this new building. I didn't mention this, but when I first started, I was in the basement of Towncrest Pharmacy, right next to the bathroom. So that was my office, if you will. And it just grew to the point that we were able to grow this into this business that we're in today, and it just kept evolving. And every day is a new day for me. And I just keep on having to recognize that, this is something that started by putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I need to continue to do such. And I know that we have that pointed at staying humble. This is always important too, because right now, obviously, it makes sense. But right now in my career, I'm the most confident that I've ever been. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'm a little bit more confident. The day after that, hopefully, I'm a little bit more confident. But we keep on gaining knowledge and understanding, and we keep learning to hopefully better ourselves every single day. But the staying humble point is so important because people can read right through you if you don't have, empathy, or if you don't have their true interest in mind. And so recognizing that tomorrow I could have an appointment, I'm meeting with a physical therapist tomorrow. The day after that, meeting with an athletic director of a school district or school, high school. I could say that meeting could go terribly wrong. But I need to go into that recognizing that, always be humble, always be ready to pivot with changes, but don't just, think, oh, because this one meeting went really well, that this is going to turn into another great service at the pharmacy. So staying humble, recognizing that I'm an everyday learner, that learning and that understanding will continue to evolve. That will never change. I will never know everything. Even if I want to, I will never know everything. And I just need to keep on pushing through that and keep on staying with that humble mentality.
Thanks, Aaron, for sharing that story. Christina.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So, my story is different, obviously. I am not a business owner. Like I said previously, I'm an ambulatory care pharmacist at a VA clinic, and my story probably happened about 6 years into being at that clinic. So I felt very confident in my pharmacy skills. I was very confident in the relationships that I had with my coworkers and the providers I worked with and the nurses I worked with. I was very confident in the conversations I would have with my patients. By that point in time, I'd had a lot of good conversations, a lot of bad conversations, kind of like Aaron was talking about. I knew how to kind of handle patient conflict. I was getting wonderful yearly reviews. And then what my struggle was is our department supervisor changed. So I continued to do obviously the same job with the same coworkers and similar patient care, but with this leadership change came a very different leadership style. And this style tanked my confidence. There was less positive feedback. There was differences in communication during meetings and one-on-one. There were different ways to make change, and our collaboration changed very significantly. So although my personal work didn't change, what I was doing on a day-to-day level, my confidence and my satisfaction was very different. And it took me a while to get this back. So in order to get this back, I needed to do a lot of self-reflection. And I had a lot of tough conversations with coworkers and my new leader. When those tough conversations, it is hard to be like, you're the one that changed, like that is the problem. But as we know, staying humble and learning with new leadership change, how you can evolve as a provider too, is very important. So with those tough conversations and with a lot of self-reflection and collaboration with the teammates that I had built that strong foundation with previously, my confidence did return. And it made me realize that, like a lot of confidence is you believing in yourself, because there will be numerous extrinsic factors that are beyond your control, whether it's, something happened outside of work or your leader changes or your patients can be grumpy. But we can't always rely on those other people to give us either positive feedback or to give us those really fuzzy good feelings. So we really have to truly build self-confidence from within. And that's going to be tested throughout our journey in life, not only at work, but in marriages and relationships, everywhere. And funny enough, last night I get like a daily self-reflection type pop-up on my phone with an app. I can't even remember what it's called, but it said, your validation can and should come from yourself first. And so I thought that was really timely and kind of funny because we were talking about this today. But yeah. Mo, what's your story? What do you got?
I think yesterday when we were reviewing our slides, this is the first time I've ever told this full story in its entirety. So I'm excited to share this and be a little vulnerable on this talk today. Communication. So like we saw Aaron, Christina communicating in different aspects to providers or managers communicating to them. This was an application process for me. I really wanted to get into business. I was introduced to business before pharmacy school through my mentors back in San Diego. And when I was in pharmacy school, I really wanted to pursue business. So there was a dual degree at that time with the MBA program, and I applied for it. And I did everything I needed to. I took the GMAT. I sat down with the coordinators. I even went to business events at Tippy, and I networked with everybody I could over there. I even got a mentor out of that whole program. And I got an interview. I interviewed really well. And at the end of the day, I got a rejection letter. And I was like, I did everything correctly. Like, how did I not get in? And that was really heartbreaking for me because I knew I wanted to pursue it. I did sit down and have a conversation with my mentors. We're fortunate that at the College of Pharmacy, they pair us up with faculty and professional mentors. I took advantage of that there and built good relationships with those individuals who sat me down and had a true conversation with me and allowed me to pivot. Talking about pivoting, this was a moment when I had to do that. But that was that story where I applied, I didn't get a position. But at the same time, I was building an organization called Toastmasters at the College of Pharmacy, which had to dissolve and join with another organization locally. So I had that skill set of like, how do I build an organization? And then one day I get an email from Kayla, and we get a lot of emails from Kayla, but this one was very special. This one said, the Dean Latender and his executive leadership board has decided that it's important for us to develop a business program. And it's going to be in partnership with Tippy. So now in my mind, I'm like, self-belief. I didn't get into business school. Am I even worth applying for this opportunity? But at the same time, what's there to lose? I have the support team at the College of Pharmacy. I'm willing to give it a try, and I have what it takes to build a different organization. So let me put those skills to play over here. So a little bit of self-belief came back, and what happened was we sat down, we had our first conversation. It was myself, two Genesis board members, Dean Latender, and a few of the executive leadership boards with Barb Kelly at that time. And they were talking about partnering up with Tippy College of Business. One of their representatives were there who I had never met before. And what they said was, we're going to start a business program that collaborates pharmacy and the College of Business together so that we can provide business acumen to pharmacy students. And I thought this is a great way to actually get back and get that experience that I wanted. But now the focus is not only on me, it's the rest of the students and generations to come after. So what I learned from that struggle and setback was that the focus at that point in time that helped me gain my self-belief back was actually focusing on what value I could bring to my colleagues and future students. So that's when I actually moved into the staying humble part, because I was like, well, Tippy didn't want me to begin with, so why should I even help out with this? But at the same time, there's a whole group of individuals that can benefit from this and have benefited from it. So that was in 2018. And in 2019, we established the Healthcare Business Leadership Program at the College of Pharmacy. And it took a lot of effort, it took a lot of work, but now we're like 6 or 7 classes in, well, 4 years in, it turned into a certificate program. It all came from being rejected by the College of Business and then turning that around into self-confidence, staying humble, and making sure that we take care of the future students to get that business acumen. And it humbles me too to see like all these different students who, I mean, some of them on this call who are now going on to do bigger things because of that business acumen. So from communication to self-belief, learning through the struggle and staying humble, you never know what impact you're going to make down the line when you focus not on yourself only, but focus on others and how they can be built. Emily, David, Keaton, Kayla, anything else to add?
I'll just jump in quick and add to the staying humble part. Similar to Christina's story, 10 years into my community pharmacy career, I jumped ship to physician assistant education, which I knew zero about. Happy to say I know a lot more about it now, 4 years later, but I'm continuously humbled on a daily basis. Just because we as pharmacists are trained much differently than physician assistants. We're not trained in a lot of diagnostic exams, physical exams. So almost every day I'm seeing things for the first time. And while that keeps me humble, it also gives me a great appreciation for the unique body of drug knowledge that we have that they don't have. So it complements each other well, and is certainly humbling all at the same time.
Thanks, Em. David, you and Hannah have something to share?
Yeah, she's got her dinosaur. But yeah, mom's at work right now. So but yeah, I would have to echo what everyone else is saying. Working in the emergency department, that definitely keeps you humble. There's always new drugs coming out, a disease state you might not have ever encountered. Also, I'm starting to get kind of old now. I've been doing it for 9, 10 years. So some of the ER docs that are starting with us now are actually younger than me, a lot younger than me. So they're bringing new ideas and new things that maybe I haven't seen yet in primary literature. So, it's always just keeping that open mind. I also, I know I've heard some of you guys echo some of this, but putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations that you're not confident in. I hopped on a review paper. I didn't really, I didn't have too much interest in it, but I wanted to check it out for ACCP. So I had a friend that shot me a message and said that he was too busy to do it. So he asked if I would be a reviewer for a paper. It was a long process. I personally didn't enjoy it too much, but it was something that I wasn't confident in and something that I wanted to go through a formal review process of a paper. So I would just echo what everyone else kind of said. It's just if you're looking to become confident in situations, you can't shy away from them. You got to put yourself in those situations.
Man, well said, Dave.
Well, I wanted to add one thing onto what David just said. I was talking to a technician who's kind of training in the networking space right now and getting some more leads on collaborating physicians and other practitioners. And what I told them, this particular person is not has interest in perhaps non-pharmacy related things in the future. And what I told them was, if you can effectively communicate something that you're not passionate about, imagine what you can do with something you are passionate about. If you can become confident and believe in yourself to get the point across about something that doesn't interest you, and you throw yourself out there in an uncomfortable situation to be able to gain that knowledge, imagine how powerful you can be with something when you finally come across that thing that you are passionate about.
That's a great point, Aaron. And for the students on the call, like, you're going to find that thing that you're passionate about in pharmacy school. It's going to be a combination of things too. And you're just going to have to pursue it. And sooner or later, as you continue to pursue it, you get feedback, you find mentors. those opportunities are going to come your way, and what felt like a struggle before is going to become very enjoyable sooner or later. Kayla?
Yeah, I just want to add really quickly, even though I'm not well, I'm not a pharmacist, but the biggest thing for me in developing my self-confidence was surrounding myself with positive people who believe in me and people who challenge me, and um, that's the biggest thing for me. That's played a difference.
That's great. Thank you, Kayla. We had that
People
conversation
on
too,
this
and we're
board too.
yep. We had that conversation when we were making this presentation. It's like when students need the leverage or that shoulder to lean on, that's why we always hear, and that's why we always do the events or are available for them to reach out to. So thanks for sharing that. Alrighty, so everyone on the group, which aspect of the circle of confidence are you working to develop? For those that joined a little after, feel free to scan the Slido QR code. And
I also have to say, I'll turn my video on, is that I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time. And I don't think that you can be 100% confident all the time. And I think your confidence will ebb and flow as you go through your career. It's not always going to be high. It's not always going to be low.
yeah, it's tough because I mean, other people don't know what you're capable of, and neither are you at that same point in time. So, as a matter of fact, you might as well just show them, you know? It's one way to move forward. And it is tough though, because sometimes you don't feel like you're qualified. 50-50, self-belief and learning from setbacks. Alrighty, yeah, we'll dive into those deeper. Does any student on the call want to share what their self-belief or learning from setbacks might be? Or any areas of confidence you're willing to grow in pharmacy school? If not, that's fine. Here's your opportunity to build some confidence.
I wanted to share something.
Sure. Go ahead, Sheila.
I applied for the P1 member at large position within APHA, and I definitely thought I had it in the bag. I knew everyone on the board. I thought I was best qualified, but I was also only just looking like at myself. I didn't realize who else was out there, like what was best fit for the position. You know, I was just looking for myself. So it came out that I was not selected for that one. I was really upset about it. But I've kind of redirected in a different way, and I've started like pouring myself into the policy committee and that kind of thing. And I'm really finding a great passion in that. So that might be a better route for me. I'm learning.
Awesome. That's a great way to learn from setbacks, is that redirection. So thanks for sharing that there. The late Tom Temple and the great Tom Temple, after going through some setbacks myself and a few others in our group, he always said that whenever stuff like that happens, you have to reinvent yourself. So this is opportunity for you to reinvent yourself and say, like, maybe I wanted that there, but at the same time, the world is showing me that I can be better at something that's more passionate to me, that Aaron's talking about, you know, like you finding that passion as you go. You thought you wanted it, and it might have benefited you, but maybe this other opportunity can help you grow into a larger position, even bigger than that.
Yeah, I think student organizations and running for those positions is a great example, because you got one of two decisions after you get not selected for a leadership position. One is give up and be like, ah, man, I suck. And two is just get back on the horse and go apply for the next one, go get involved in something else. And I think that there's nothing more of an opportunity as a student learning experience to really get rejected and then be able to say, what do I need to perhaps reinvent about myself to make myself a little bit more applicable or more appealing for that position or a different position down the line. But I'm also a big believer in everything happens for a reason as well. So I think that if that position you didn't get selected for that position, personally, I think, yeah, get back on the horse, but go figure out what does happen or what does end up falling onto your plate, because that's probably going to be the right thing for you.
And what and not only that, there might be other positions that or more things you want to do. And if you are a member at large, you might have too much of a commitment where you can't get involved in other things that are going to move you forward in the direction you want to go. So that's another way to look at it as well. All righty. So now we're going to hop into communicate, connect, and how do we do that by developing confidence. So as you can tell, there's only one skill you really need to succeed in life, and it can be applied to every single area of life. We all talked about it already. The first area, as you mentioned, I believe when you're applying for member at large, do you have to give a speech, Sheila? Why you want the position?
No, not for the member at large. For the president-elect, you do, and that's in January. But the member at large is just an application and then an interview with the president and president-elect if both can attend.
Okay, sweet. So now you're gonna have a leg up because you're gonna get coached on developing confidence in presenting. So here's one area where this number one skill, the only skill you need, comes into play, presenting. And that is when you have to give a presentation and put yourself out there. So people are looking at you to be a subject matter expert, and they've asked you because they saw value in you, or you're applying for a position, or your leader at your organization says, "Hey, you're really good at this here. Can you present on this here?" And you're like, maybe." Like, I don't know why you think I'm the subject matter expert, but sure, I'll go ahead and do it. So a little bit of background. We're going to talk about storytelling in a little bit as well. I was extremely nervous about speaking in public. I was at a family gathering, sitting at a table, and all my cousins are going around, and they're used to this. And this is the first time I went to this gathering, and they were all giving speeches, and I was not prepared for this. I'm like, I don't want to speak in public. I just want to play with the kids, you know? Like, I'm a kid. I just want to play with my cousins and just move on. I don't want to give speeches at dinners. So I went from that nervous kid to, when applying for residencies, having directors ask for my presentations and how I developed them. So how did all of that happen? It went from going to Toastmasters and developing that skill set, but understanding the art of communication. So when you're communicating, as you can tell from our experiences that we're sharing, it's not to say what you know, it's to deliver the message so that other people can receive it and that you're bringing value to those in the audience. So you kind of have to, yes, have the confidence that you know the material, but what is the audience getting out of it? So to develop that skill set, you have to always ask yourself, when I'm speaking on this slide, when I'm giving this presentation about this disease state and this drug and its effects, or if I'm giving a business pitch, or if I'm talking to this patient on their medications, what are they going to get out of it? And when you focus on them and what they need, then you moving to communicating appropriately instead of just communicating what you know. So take what you know and relate it to how it's going to benefit someone else. I remember Dr. Sarafman, who retired now, he was teaching our P1 class, and he said he had a straight A student, 4.0, knew everything, super smart. But when it got to rotations, they couldn't get that message across to the patient. They were struggling and they were frustrated. And they wondered why it was happening and why the patient wasn't understanding and why they couldn't make that impact. And it became that he had to coach her on, well, focus on how that message is being delivered so that you can actually get that to the patient. And I think that's a nice segue into the next part that Christina's going to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So very similar to what Mo was saying in terms of knowing your audience and then sometimes pivoting when you need to. So for instance, when you're trying to help someone, you're trying to change a medication or ask about their lifestyle and ask about side effects or counsel on a new medication. These are important things that you need to get into their head and important things that you need to hear from them to help you make your clinical decision. So making sure that you're not lecturing without getting some feedback from them in terms of their understanding, making sure that they don't feel like that your tone is appropriate, that that you're not saying, well, of course you can't eat 3 cheeseburgers every day and expect to have beautiful cholesterol. Obviously, those are going to turn patients off, and then they're not going to hear what you're trying to communicate either because they're just going to get angry. So really thinking about that communication with your patients, establishing that rapport with them, connecting with them, maybe outside of healthcare to help make them feel comfortable so that they can receive that information. Oftentimes, when people are anxious or mad or upset, you get into the tunnel vision and your learning turns off. So really thinking about how you're communicating, how they're feeling, if they need to be communicated with in a different way. If you need to talk softer, if you need to talk louder, if you need to go slower, if you need to write things down. I had a recent veteran who has a really hard time hearing. So what we ended up doing when trying to educate him on the continuous glucose monitor was having him listen to a 5-minute video with my headsets on, so he could really turn the volume up and watch the video with closed captioning, and then we could try and get into it with us in front of us as well. So I think I kind of put a lot of things together there, but I think the one thing to me that is most important is respecting that what you don't know. So making sure that they can trust you when it comes to when it comes to something you don't know. So I think that is also a really, really important skill that healthcare providers need. Everyone should obviously need it, but specifically healthcare, because it's their body and their one life. And really saying, I've never heard of that side effect before, but let me go look and see if this can cause that. I think it might be pretty rare, but maybe you're part of the 2% it happens to, or going through all their herbals and kind of having a really deep dive into, okay, this probably won't hurt you. What's the benefit from it type of conversation, and having an honest, open conversation versus saying, oh, there's no evidence for that, So I really think how you talk with them and how you portray what your knowledge is, confidence and communication is so important, and they definitely go hand in hand.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina.
Yeah, business plan, effective communication is obviously very valuable here. I want to talk about 2 different ways that it might be valuable. And I think the important thing when we're writing a business plan or implementing a business plan is recognizing the value that we're trying to bring as a new business, or as we are approaching writing a new business plan. First thing is oftentimes you go to a bank, and the bank doesn't just give out money just to give out money. They want to make money on that process. And they can't make money unless your business is successful, or else you go bankrupt, and that's not good for any parties involved. So the way that works, the way that they're willing to give you money, is by writing a business plan first off, and being able to elaborate on pen and paper what you see, what your projections are, why you think this is going to identify a missing thing in the community, and why this is going to meet that unmet need. But then you need to be able to actually portray that confidence in person. It's almost like going back to presenting in a presentation. You go to the bank and you're like, this is what I believe in. This is what it's going to look like in 2, 3, 5, 7 years. This is how this is going to be a good investment for you. And this is why I believe in myself and my business as being a successful future business entity. And so being able to actually effectively communicate that value to the bank as an investor in your business, that is very important. And then once you finally get and secure that money so that you get the business up and going, that's actually when the real hard stuff comes in, because now you got the money, but guess what? You still don't own that money. You need to be able to pay back that money. And that's when you have to be able to effectively communicate to your constituents the value that you want to provide and add in their life, so that they either, 1, are consumers of your business, or 2, referrers to your business. So if it's a patient, this is important for them to understand why you might be different, why you are different from a competitor that exists down the street, where they might think in the back of their head, I'm getting the same service there. And from a referring provider, kind of the same deal. You got to explain to them the value that you're going to provide to their patients so that they feel comfortable and confident in sending them your way. Because with a business, oftentimes you are an extension on top of the referring provider. And so if they're saying, hey, go to XYZ pharmacy, we really believe that they're going to provide you a good service, and that patient comes there and you tank it, that looks bad, not only on you, but on them as well. So that effective communication is very important so that you can provide the value add to the investor or the bank so that they can give you money, so you can secure that money, so you can actually go implement these great ideas that you might have in your mind. And once the money is secured and the business is started, now you need customers. And so that's when it's important to portray that value add to either the customer or someone who's going to send the customer your way. And having a self-belief system, having confidence in your ability to make that a frictionless customer experience for everybody involved, and providing value to each of the people who are constituents in that business is very important.
Thanks, Aaron. So there you guys have it. The only skill you need to succeed is communication, and apply it across all three. If you heard very closely, it's all about communicating value to your end users, whether that be the patient, whether that be the bank, whether that be your group at work, your executive leaders, your directors, or even when you giving your presentations on rotations, on even if it's like a journal club or project, think about this presentation I'm about to give. I'm about to do research. I'm about to read all these papers. How is this going to benefit my preceptor? How is this going to benefit the group of physicians or nurses that are in the room too, that are listening? And that they're switching from the mindset of I need to get this done to it's my fault, I didn't communicate correctly. If you miss the mark, you're just going to get better and better and better at it, because then other people are going to be more focused on the actual task at hand versus how they need to communicate that to have other people take action on that, on the stuff they're communicating on and the value that they're going to bring. So now once we understand communicating and that how to communicate to a patient, how to communicate to your teams, how to communicate a business plan, then you need to start getting savvy and start incorporating different techniques. So as we were mentioning, storytelling is very powerful. I remember when I was applying for residencies, I helped one of the local pharmacies out in Waterloo build a database to help monitor patients' QT intervals so that they can just track which drug-drug interactions might elongate QT prolongation. And I could have said, I built this database, and the pharmacy was fortunate that they could see patient drug-drug interactions and provide better patient care, and done deal. But incorporating a story of what that would look like just made that presentation 10 times better, because I brought in the characters. I saw what the outcome was going to be. Everything was going to be on paper. And I said, no. We want to build something that's going to be sustainable. And we wanted to build something that could be used across the entire pharmacy, where we can remove documentation and streamline things. So creating that storyline gives you the opportunity to tell details, and people connect with it too. So you can share your struggles. So when you guys are applying for your applications in school for different positions, tell your story too of why you want that position, what struggles you went through personally, if you can share that, of what you're going to do with that position and how you're going to solve those problems and bring value. I think that would be a great way of connecting. So that's when you use communication to start connecting with everybody. And that's when votes and stuff start going your way, because people feel connected to your message and what you're about to do. Coupled with that, there is supporting details and data. So if you can pull in data of the impact you're going to have, or you can have, or what's going to change, that's a great way just to build confidence, because you know what you're talking about, and people will be like, wow, they did their research and they know their details of what they're going to do in this position or this business plan or talking to this patient. Even if it's with a preceptor and you're doing your research on a new drug, or like Christina was talking about, the side effects that might not be relevant to every single patient. Now they know you got your supporting details. So that's building your confidence, and you can be even more confident when you're speaking to that patient. And then lastly is just listen to understand. Stephen Covey has his great book out there, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And one of the rules of success is first seek to understand, then be understood. So that's putting that person first and listening to them. What is their true concern? And I mean, sometimes, especially as pharmacists, we play that role of almost a therapist, where we have to like listen to that patient and listen to our team members at times too. Like as a manager, I have team members come up to me all the time. I have to listen to what their concern is, and that way I can better serve them and bring value to them. And that's how you connect with people, and that's how you take that to that next level throughout your journey, throughout pharmacy school and beyond in your career. That's how you turn communicating into connecting. Storytell, have your data so you can support your facts and what you're telling your story about, and be able to listen to the concerns of others and back it up with communicating and connecting with them. So now we're going to have Aaron talk a little bit about learning, adapting, and pivoting.
So if you got the storytelling down, what's next? So this is, Mo actually mentioned this before we kind of jump into this topic. Knowing your own personal story and being able to effectively communicate that is the easiest way to transition into storytelling, because no one can question you or say, hey, you're lying about yourself. You know yourself best. And so if you're able to communicate your story to somebody, that's great practice for when you have to talk about something that you might not know as much as yourself. But this is what happens when, or what you should be able to do when you've got the storytelling down, you've got the foundational knowledge down, and you feel so confident, you got the self-belief system down, you're ready to, sit down with somebody and explain to them the value that you're going to add. And then it hits the fan and things don't go according to plan. How are you going to pivot? And so these are kind of 4 different things that can help you out as you try to avoid any kind of thing hit the fan, so that you don't have to quickly crumble under pressure or quickly try to pivot as much as possible. But these are things like knowing your audience and adapting tone and style to that audience are very important. And this can be actually portrayed in a couple different ways. One, when you're talking to physicians and other medical professionals, that should be and likely will be a different way from when you're talking to patients or other people without that health literacy or that background. And so you can't get that mixed up, because if you start talking layman's terms to a physician when you're trying to explain your confidence and your education and why they should send patients your way, you might lose out on them becoming confident in you. And if you start talking like you're going to talk to a physician only to a patient, that might just go right over their head and you just wasted both of your guys' time. So recognizing who you're speaking with, and then once you identify that audience, that target audience that we're speaking with, being able to adapt the tone and style of how you're communicating so that it can be perceived and retrieved by the end user in a way that's going to be valuable for them. And then empathy is always a big one. I know, I think still in pharmacy school, you guys do like empathy stems with Dr. Witchery. One of a very valuable courses and parts of a course that I thought were super interesting, because that's how you're going to gain rapport with either patients or providers, or the end user, whoever that may be. So if you just fake it and you're just like, hey, like from a business standpoint, if I'm like, at the end of the day, I just want you guys money to send patients my way and I'll collect money from them, and that's great. They're going to see right through that. But if you can really get on the same level that they're on and recognize that you want to meet perhaps a hardship that they're dealing with, you want to make that better for them, whether that is a patient or a referring provider, that goes a long way. Being able to really get on the same level that they're on and being able to say, I recognize that this is a challenge that you're dealing with, either as a patient or as a provider. This is the challenge you're dealing with. I want to make it an easier, frictionless experience for you and make it better for you and your patients and other constituents. So having those empathy stems in your back pocket and being able to be empathetic towards very unique, diverse situations will be very valuable as you communicate and as you have to work on pivoting too, because there might be some uncomfortable conversations that come up that require some empathy. Conflict resolution. This is the biggest one because most people, a lot of people, I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people lack conflict resolution. It's not fun. No one really is eager to jump into conflict and say, I've got the solution here. I love confrontation. I love dealing with angry people. No one really enjoys and appreciates doing that. But if you're able to navigate those situations in a way to make that conflict go away, or make that conflict or the person who's presenting with the conflict, making them understand why we need to correct this or fix this, or making them feel understood, that's a very valuable asset that you can provide to the team, to yourself, to your business, to the whole patient care experience. So being able to have conflict resolution, and you can see here that you've got empathy in there, you've got interviewing and active listening. We've talked about just continuing being a listener and a learner every single day. Accountability is a big one. If you mess up, own that mistake and fix it as time goes on. Creative problem solving. I think being a creative person in general is just very valuable to be able to stand out when you are effectively communicating with somebody. Facilitation, assertiveness, mediation. So all of these things come together when we're doing problem solving and resolving conflict. So we want to make sure that we're pulling from a little bit of each of those subjects and implementing each of them as we are resolving that conflict, so that we can really, fix the problem at hand. And oftentimes that all comes together because when you're resolving conflict, you also need to show empathy. You also need to adapt your tone and style based off of who your target audience is. So this is what happens when you need to pivot, need to change quickly, but being able to not crumble under pressure and succeeding through your conversation and your communication, implementing these four styles will always be helpful.
Thanks, Aaron. And staying humble and confident. Before Christina hops into that there, I just wanted to mention that on the Slido app, if you have the app open, you can ask questions right now already, and it will come up at the end of the presentation. So you can type those in if you don't want to wait, or you can wait until the end if you guys have questions and then type them in. All righty, Christina.
Yeah. So staying humble and confident. So oftentimes, if you can see in this diagram, confidence, or the old school confidence where you kind of walk around where I know everything, I'm always right, kind of is completely opposite than what you would consider to be humility or humbleness, where you're almost self-doubting your ability. And confident humility is kind of the new way of combining these two. So you're still confident in your ability, but you're very humble about your beliefs and opinions. And we kind of discussed this, and people had some great answers at the beginning of the presentation about what confidence is in terms of you're aware that you may not always be right. You're aware that your beliefs might be wrong. So you're not 100% certain about all of them, but you're confident in your ability to arrive at the correct solution. So you're not completely riddled every day, every decision by self-doubt. So there's a merging of these two. And recently I heard a story which kind of was interesting. Let's go into storytelling, right, Mo? About the owner of BlackBerry. I don't know if anyone's heard this story before. BlackBerries, right? You had like your phone. It was like super cool. It was hot in the business world. This guy thought he knew it all. He was the BlackBerry king. He was on top of the world. And someone came up to him and said, "Hey, what if we made it a touchscreen?" And he was like, "No way. This is it. Like, we're doing it. Like, that's nothing. This is obviously working. It's right." They didn't really, they didn't learn. They weren't adaptable. They didn't consider have an open mind. And the iPhone, whoop, is a touchscreen, correct? So I think thinking about that leader and how they didn't really pivot, or they didn't have an open mind, or they didn't consider something else that could be, really big, or a change that could happen. It doesn't necessarily always have to be one way either, right? Like, could have merged the two or had a combination. But keeping that in mind as you go forth. There's going to be times where you're like, I know this is the right answer, like this is it. But sometimes if you just listen to a couple other people or listen to your patients, it may not be the right answer for them. So, yeah, I think trying to be confident yet humble is super important, especially as we learn and grow as adults and pharmacists.
Thanks,
That
Christina.
also happened to Netflix and Blockbuster, that same
Yeah.
exact situation. So being able to pivot, adapt, and listen, and not think you know it all, obviously is very valuable.
For sure.
Blockbuster. RIP.
There's one left.
Not-
Is there one left? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holding strong.
Yeah. I think it's the original one too.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh man.
Yeah. Any questions from anyone or like hard situations that
Hey,
you might want to talk out? Oh yeah, David. Hey.
while
Go ahead,
they're
David.
while they're thinking of questions, I just jotted down 2 notes here while I was listening to you guys. So with Mo and Christina, just piggybacking off them about a student, that knows everything and can't communicate. We actually just had a resident recently that exact thing. So could not he knew a ton. He could cite guidelines. He could cite journal clubs. He could do all of this, but with the providers in the ER, he just kind of had a cocky attitude with them and they just weren't having it. So even though he was right at the end of the day, the patient care was subpar because his recommendation not getting accepted by other providers. And then jumping into that as well, the ER, we face it all the time. There's tons of different personalities in our providers. We have almost 30 of them between physicians and mid-levels. And, it's I have to approach them in different ways depending on what provider it is. Some of them I could be really direct with, like, and they just want the bottom line. Some of them I have to finesse a little and make it their idea. And then, then we get what we need. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I don't care as long as we get the best care for the patient. The second note that I jotted down was about confidence. And Mo kind of talked about Tom a little bit. But don't be afraid to help build others' confidence. That's part of my job as a preceptor. Every day that I have a learner, I have to, try to focus on maybe what this person's doing well, and make sure that that's communicated amongst all the things that maybe they have to improve on. And, even, P3s, P2s on the line, you could even be that person for the P1 in your organization and who you want to grow as the next leader behind you. So don't be afraid to be someone that grows someone else's confidence as well. We talk a lot about growing our own, but don't be afraid to, let people know what they're doing well to maybe build their own confidence.
Awesome. That's a great point. What questions do you guys have? You can type it in the chat. You can yell it out. You can put it on the Slido. Your choice.
Something for Dave too is kids also help with our humility, keeping us humble. So
She's screaming now. So yes, 100%.
And hopefully you guys can see like how it all ties in too, because like when you go to networking events, right? You might be thinking, okay, fine, there's all these big names over there, or there's professors that teach me and I'm shy to like go up to them. I feel like imposter syndrome sitting in because we came to these events. Now what do I do? Just go back down to the basics, Tell your story. Why are you here? What brought you to pharmacy school? What are you passionate about? And then what positions are you in? What value are you bringing to that there? And then honestly, that's how a lot of times we bring in speakers when we were in pharmacy school to events. And we had like some big names come to the College of Pharmacy because we'd go out, tell our stories, and then ask them like, wow, we really see what you're doing is very valuable. Do you mind coming in and speaking to our organization? Now you're building your network. So now you're talking about building network, building confidence. It all ties into one another. And when you can communicate to connect with that individual. So I think Kayla and Barbie would always tell us this too, is like, we give you the list of speakers. We know, who's there. You did your research on them. Find something that you connect with them with and then talk to them about that as well. Because that's a good way to build your network and then build confidence in moving up in your position throughout pharmacy school. And you never know when those connections can help you out later on in life. You never know. I mean, right now I'm going through a transition and like one text message away, and then I got connected with somebody who was very important that I needed to get connected with. I'll tell that story maybe at a later date, but that's just a go ahead, Aaron.
I was just gonna say, I feel like sometimes we think, as students, that if I send that message or I reach out to that person, that I'm gonna be annoying them or bothering them. That's never the case. Like they want to help you. They are so eager to listen to what you have to say, or get on a Zoom call with you, or even show up in person. I don't know a single person who would be on one of those lists who would be like, I don't want to talk to you. Like everybody, like on the Genesis board, everybody who's on that list is ready and waiting for you guys to send those emails or ask them a question and eager to help you out. And I think a lot of times we just feel like as students, oh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to, disrupt their day. But no, that wouldn't be the case. And you, as the person making going out of your way, perhaps putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation and reaching out to them, that will actually speak volumes as time goes on, because as Mo said, that connection is firmly made when you develop it, as a P1, 2, 3, whenever you reach out to them. And then perhaps that could provide value to you in 4 or 5 years in the future.
I think that's a great point to make. I was just going to say, you won't be bothering anybody. And if they can't talk to you at that moment, or, I mean, they'll get back to you. They won't. I know our alumni, they'll give you time.
I will add this too, because I think we need to talk about this part of it. There's the other side of it too, right? Where you maybe reach out to a preceptor, you reach out to somebody and they're not willing to connect, or they feel like you might be bothering them. Don't take that personally. That's that individual, not you. So then just reach out to somebody who is willing to help you out, because you do get those instances where you might reach out and you are going to potentially get rejected depending on the approach, depending on that individual. So don't take that personal. I don't, like Aaron said, I mean, everybody at the Genesis board is completely different. We're here to serve, but not everybody has that kind of mindset. It would be ideal if everybody did, but the reality of the fact is there are people out there that just want to go to work, do their job, even though they're told to be preceptors. They're preceptors, but they don't serve as preceptors per se all the time. So there is that opportunity out there as well that you might face, but just know that it's not you.
In business, I say every no is one no closer to a yes. So
Yep.
I expect 80% of, and this isn't like what I'm talking about, reaching out to someone to build a connection or speak at an event. But in business, when I reach out to a potential collaborator, I expect 80% of the time for them to either ghost me or say, no, I'm not interested. And it's just not letting that phase me, and then really celebrating the wins on the 20% or 10 or 20% that do say yes and let's collaborate. So don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of denial. Just get right back out there and keep on getting your name out there and reaching out to people, because more is better than less, and every no is one no closer to a yes.
Yep. And I mean, we polled in the beginning and we saw we have a few P1s and P2s on here. So we're expecting emails asking for assistance on applications or next positions or practice, because we're here to assist and help. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Are there any more questions? Shayla, Christiane, Savannah, Nina? Okay. Well, I hope you all have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us, Genesis board members. Thank you for your time also. We do have another SuccessRx coming up. Give me one moment. I can pull that up. Next Tuesday. Ooh, maybe there isn't one. There's not one on election day. November 7th. It is called Learning versus Cramming. So another great topic to discuss, especially before you guys get into final exams. So with that, I hope you all have a great night. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Hannah.